What if the news wasn't about the truth, but about the ratings? In 1976, Network imagined a TV anchor losing his mind on air and becoming a national sensation. The film gave us one of cinema's most famous speeches, "I'm as mad as hell and I'm not going to take this anymore," and predicted the modern media circus decades before it happened. Is Network the most prophetic film ever made about journalism and television? Let's find out. This is Foreplay. Remember to like and subscribe. We are now on our second episode of the journalism arc in Foreplay. Last week was 1976's All the President's Men. This week is another film from 1976 and two sides of the same coin. Very interesting takes on journalism, both from that same year. This is the satirical black comedy Network. Next week, we will be proceeding with The Insider. So a pretty big jump in time into a Russell Crowe-led film, and then we will be finishing with Salvador in this arc. So this is our second Sidney Lumet movie. We did Dog Day Afternoon as part of our heist arc, and
was also written by the person who did Altered States.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. So it was written by Chayefsky, who did Altered States. Yeah. So a couple of connections there. Altered States was part of our last arc, or not our. Sorry, excuse me.
Yeah, see.
I get confused because we record these so far in advance, guys. I forget that there was, in fact, by your perspective, another arc in between. So if you are watching this, it was not our last arc. It was our arc before last, because our last arc was the Nicolas Cage arc.
There you go.
And then it was the psychedelic horror arc.
Back to reality.
So that's what Altered States was a part of. We've been banging these out, guys. We exist in the future several weeks, so we try and get this done so we don't have interruptions and we can plan it out a little bit more effectively.
And you guys don't know at home, but we're doing some like insane Barbenheimer shit every time, where it's like two movies back to back with no connecting tissue. Sometimes it's like this one. We watched All the President's Men before, which is almost like some crazy nightmare fueled book ending of like what journalism could be to the dark reality of today.
Yeah, now
like,
that I will add that having I watched these in the same day, right? When so as a pairing, perfect. Like honestly, the jaded nature of all, like I came out of having watched All the President's Men. I potted around the kitchen for an hour. I cooked some dinner, poured a glass of wine, came back, watched Network, and I was primed for this. And it hit really, really hard. And it's, as I was saying before we hit record, I think it's one of those movies where it's just like, there's always a new detail to discover in this film. There's always like a little thing you forgot or a line that you know.
Much better than I remember as well, mate. Like, it's another one of those films where my brain, I thought I had most of it. But again, like, it's one of those ones where the chronology is all, like, I'll tell you one thing that shocked me about rewatching this. The most iconic part, the big speech that I'm not going to... It's like an hour into the movie. It's like 53 minutes in. Like, you think that's 5 minutes into the film, don't you? And then I said on a past episode, there's that whole weird element that most people forget, which is sort of like where they're doing like... I mean, they even reference it. They're doing like their version of the Patty Hearst, like a famous person's now with a bunch of terrorists. But like that lasts quite long. And then I even forgot all the latter part, which is almost like... preempting TMZ type shit now, which is actually like become that part. Last third part has aged crazy well. That when I first watched this 20 years ago, that part I remember thinking, they're getting a bit experimental on this part. That part, like the actual sort of cultural critique part, is unbelievable because the 70s, bro. It's unbelievable.
It's aged extremely well, especially because as he goes into the kind of angry prophet state that they, that goes into directly the kind of talking head celebrity.
But remember, you didn't have at the time, Monty.
Of the modern
that wasn't
era.
a thing. He didn't have the Glenn Becks or even the Alex Jones type figures. This just it's so ahead of its time. It's
very
crazy,
prescient.
isn't it?
So look, I'll do the summary for this one. I've got it. I know it in a breakup of our formula.
All the people who don't watch the movies love this.
Yeah. So basically, right, what is Network about? Right, there's a news guy, a long-standing news guy called Howard Beale. and he is in a
he's a television news anchor.
He's a news anchor on a
so this is in contrast to All the President's Men, which was about newspapers. This is about TV newsrooms.
So and he's working at a failing network that has been acquired by a corporation that has took on all of its debt and is now looking to cut corners and to try and get better ratings, better sponsors, and actually make some money. And as you know, if you run a network or if you've just heard anything about how news operates, news is always a loss leader. That's your department. Now, Howard Beale, he's also having a tough time in his life. His wife passed away, wife of 33 years. And so he's not in a good place. And he
doesn't have any kids. No. He basically has nothing to lose. And that's very important.
Yeah, he's basically a childless, lonely old man who's dedicated this is too real for me right now, who's dedicated his life to the pursuit of news and truth, and he has and he announces that he's going to kill himself on air. He says, I'm going to fucking, I know what.
The one step you haven't yet taken, Richard.
Well,
so
watch this
you're skipping the part where he's told his show is canceled because his ratings are slipping.
Yeah, his ratings are slipping. Yeah.
And so his longtime friend and boss, who's the chief of the news division, is like, sorry, buddy, we got to fire you. So then he says on air, I'm going to kill myself in a week.
Yeah, because he's got nothing. And by the way, when they're drunk at the bar at the start, he even makes a joke going, well, if you do kill yourself on air, that'll get a hell of a bump in the ratings. You might even get like a 15 share for that. So anyway, it turns out that he says this at the right time because a ambitious executive played by the ever gorgeous Faye Dunaway is basically wanting to get a hit program, and she believes, because the spike in the ratings based on the novelty of a newsman coming out and having a breakdown on air and saying he's going to kill himself and telling the truth, she believes she can spin that show into a phenomenon, the most successful one on the network. Robert Duvall, who represents the corporation that bought the networks, gives her the carte blanche to do it, and so Howard Beale becomes the mad prophet of the airwaves. In there, as Duncan said, about 53 minutes into the movie, you have probably the most sampled monologue from screen history ever. It has been used in everyone from like DJ Violence to Immortal Technique. This movie is the most oversampled film of all time. He gives this.
You've heard it if you listen to electronic music, 100%.
Yeah, and basically it's that one. We're mad as hell, and we're not going to take this anymore. It's that one, right?
We sit in the house, and slowly the world we're living in is getting smaller, and all we say is, please, at least leave us alone in our living rooms. Let me have my toaster and my TV and my steel-belted radios, and I won't say anything. Just leave us alone. Well, I'm not going to leave you alone. I want you to get mad. I don't want you to protest. I don't want you to riot. I don't want you to write to your congressmen because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crime in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value. So, I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
So anyway, he gives that speech and people start doing it. They do stick their head out the window. Everyone is dissatisfied.
Which, by the way, another thing that is mental, just as a very quick aside, I don't imagine we're going to spend much time on this, but probably the most crazy prescient part, Monty, is that actually happened during COVID. In COVID, they were telling people, like, clap outside your windows because you're not allowed to leave the house, or, like, shout things in support of, like, political... That was a real... That was, by the way, that premise in this movie is silly, but now that's happened in real life. It's another one of these areas where, like, this movie was onto something. This is like a transmission from the future.
So he basically becomes a mad prophet of the airwaves. Everybody's loving him, and this gives Faye Dunaway's character more carte blanche to make more of her programming. Simultaneously, while this is going on, she wants to produce a show called The Mousy Tongue Hour, right? Which is
amazing.
She is embedded with a terrorist group called the Ecumenical Liberation Army, the ELA, and they want to make a new docudrama series.
Which is supposed to be a combination of like the Black Panthers and the Weather Underground.
And
because obviously, like I said, that did happen with Paddy Chayefsky. She was involved with like the fucking whatever that group was, Surinamese or whatever.
So, and the premise for the show is, every show starts with a real act of terrorism being filmed, and then they create a drama build up as like a retrospective to it, and that's going to be their like new flagship show. Now the problem with this is the network is in the middle of a buyout, and it's going to be bought by the Saudis.
Too real, isn't it, mate? It's too real.
It's so meta.
I've written it down. There's literally a point where they say the line, we should sample this ourselves, Monty, for the Four Horsemen. There's a line that goes, we need that Saudi money bad.
Yeah, we need that Saudi money bad. It actually says it, bro.
CCA has $2 billion in loans with the Saudis, and they hold every pledge we've got. We need that Saudi money bad.
Which, by the way, this is a detail I had forgotten.
I'd forgot it too.
Obviously,
I knew it was the Arabs. I knew it was the Arabs is how it's framed for most of the film.
I didn't even remember that.
But it was the fucking Saudis the whole time. So anyway, Howard Beale is going on the network, right, and saying we've got to stop this. We mustn't have the Arabs owning everything in America. And so that gets him called up to the president, not of the network, but of the corporation, Ned Beatty, who then gives him a speech saying there is no America, there are no countries, we're all just an amalgamation of corporations.
It is a fun speech.
It's great. Sampled by Immortal
Technique. A lot
Technique
of people have used
on his third album.
It is a great speech.
And he says, like, how it works ever since man crawled out of the slime is that businesses self-regulate with the International Code of Commerce, and I need you to go and proselytize that. And because Howard Beale is just mentally ill, he goes, right, I've seen the face of God, his corporate overlord. And so he starts going on air and talking about this shit. And then while he's proselytizing about why corporation's good, people don't like him anymore. He's talking about the death of the individual. People don't like it. They're getting depressed. So his rating starts going down. And Faye Dunaway gets really frustrated because that's her one-hit show until the Mousy Tongue Hour gets up and running. So they now decide, how are we going to fix the ratings? We'll tell him to talk about the old stuff, the cool stuff when he was angry.
By the way, they also do later on come up with potentially one of the most bold ways to ever cancel someone on TV I've ever heard of.
As in, they then conclude, because he won't change his messaging and the head of the corporation that owns the network likes what he's saying on air, they must kill him. And so Faye Dunaway,
even though the whole premise, remember, was him just threatening to kill himself in the old news world would get you dragged off air. Now they're like, we need to kill him on air to get the ratings.
So to basically launch the first episode of the Mousy Tongue Hour, the real life act of terror that they are going to have in the show is the killing of their own news anchor. He comes out, Howard Beale, he gets gunned down on air, head blown off, chest blown apart, movie ends. And and the line is, that was the story of Howard Beale, the first known instance of a man who was killed because he had lousy ratings. And then it ends with but not as shit as All the President's Men. So that's network, and it is crazy. It's like Duncan says, as a transmission from the future, it has to be. There's no other explanation.
It's amazing.
This predicts like things like InfoWars and Alex Jones. It predicts things like Jerry Springer. It predicts WWE and the rise of like wrestling.
I mean, the very idea that viewership, it goes above even like quality of programming. Like the whole movie's filled with the idea that like even the news itself doesn't have its own inherent function and purpose. It has to hit numbers, just like a lot of the things in this movie at the time, again, must have seemed so bizarre. Like the idea that a news person would watch a fucking terrorist like bank robbery and go, that's brilliant, where do we get more of that? Like, no, that is exactly what the fucking news hound is like nowadays.
It predicts Hassan Piker. It predicts the basically the victory of capitalism over communism, which you see played out in real time in this.
Well,
film.
it also does a great job of essentially lampooning what happens when corporate interests attach themselves to political causes. I mean, like, a lot of people that you.
Oh, that scene, Richard, cracks me the fuck up. Because I hope people do get that this is satire. Yeah. The scene where the woman, by the way, the only part of the movie I think is a little bit over the top is whenever Faye Dunaway's character is talking to that black communist chick, and they're having like, because that is some Aaron Sorkin dialogue. It's all just trying to be like super, well, the capitalistic thing. But the idea, Monty, I agree with you, Monty. Like the premise goes, these are hardcore commie terrorists, right, who are anti-America. And there's an actual scene where they're bitching and moaning about who gets what share share of the money and what about what?
Yeah, they're negotiating the contract.
They've just become complete capitalists. It's mad, isn't it? It's actually
he says something like, "Don't you fuck with my deliverables," or something like that.
I know exactly.
I'm not giving this pseudo-insurrectionary sectarian a piece of my show. I'm not giving him script approval, and I sure as shit ain't cutting him into my distribution charges. You fucking fascist! Did you see the film we made of the San Marino jailbreak out demonstrating the rising up of the Seminole prisoner class infrastructure? You can blow the Seminole prisoner class infrastructure out your ass! I'm not knocking down my goddamn distribution charges!
Man, give her the fucking overhead clause. Let's get back to page 22. 5, small a, subsidiary rights.
Exactly. So it's a very surface level understanding of this film. People always say it, and it's like, oh, Newsman.
It's a fever dream.
What if in Newsman?
Even when they introduced that fucking scene with the Ahmed Khan guy, he's literally eating like KFC fried chicken, like what the fucking like. This is so like I know what you mean. I can't tell on the one hand, is this like an absolutely genius riposte of what the American culture is going to be, or is it actually meant to be leaning into comedy? Because it like in the same scene, it can go between those two. It can be just like a dark comedy, and then the other time it can be like a really real, insightful analysis.
This was supposed to be comedy at the time. I don't think he knew it was going to go in this direction. Like, I think what's disturbing about this movie is that we're watching it almost 50 years later and it's real now. And we're like, what the fuck is this? This was intended to be satire, but it's now become reality.
Now, the American media landscape and American politics, it's impossible to satirize now. It really is. Like, it's just,
we literally have a reality TV president.
Exactly.
Like, this is exactly like, it's crazy.
But also as well, I mean, like a very surface level kind of reading of the movie is like a lot of people go and they say, what if Newsman had breakdown and told truth on air? And it's like, you see that from, it's in Brass Eye, it's in Jonathan Pye, it's in the Newsroom again to some extent. That's what Jeff Bridges' character, Jeff Daniels' character does in that. And so it
even the fucking, how about Scrooge?
Exactly.
He tells everyone the truth.
It is a trope, but this is the trope where it started, and obviously, it is. I mean, this is just one of the greatest films ever made. I mean, like
it's
really.
By the way, this is actually so much better on the rewatch than I thought. I already thought it was a good film, but I thought it was one of those quaint art facts. It's actually a really fucking fun watch.
It's
really
great.
Good.
I mean,
a detail I think is mad underrated, by the way, is actually like, mate, this film is so well written.
Oh yeah,
like
yeah.
The dialogue is fantastic. Like I was saying to you before, the actual character and actor I forgot is William Holden, the guy who plays the boss of the network and the one who has the relationship with Faye Dunaway. I think his storyline is mega, and some of his dialogue is
that
really
one where
they're
like breaking up for like the third time,
and they're doing it like analyzing a TV show beats. Yeah, it's crazy,
like,
isn't it? It's actually really well
saying,
done.
Like I'm becoming one of your scripts.
After living with you for 6 months, I'm turning into one of your scripts. Well, this is not a script, Diana. There's some real, actual life going on here.
Because there's like a scene earlier where she's being pitched all these shit TV shows. Which, by the way, the film The Player would do a really good kind of extension of that, which is like, right, give me the elevator pitch, and it would be like, okay, it's Sophie's Choice, but with sandwiches. Just these stupid shit pitches, which unfortunately, a lot of these terrible TV shows do get made. And a lot of tropey bullshit gets made. And by the way, that's a throwaway joke in this film. It satirizes everything. And people, I think, do tunnel in on the Howard Beale story because it is the fucking mad prophet of the airwaves. He probably does get the best monologue of the movie, although I think that's arguable. But it's not. It's satirizing everything, like all at once. It's talking about.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, it's satirizing the way he set up and the cynical way that people exploit each other in entertainment. I think my favorite scene in this movie is when Max, who's the head of the news division, Max Schumacher, who's played by William Holden, is having that argument with Robert Duvall and Faye Dunaway, and he's saying, no, Beale is mentally ill. Yeah. And Faye Dunaway's like, But what if he really is a prophet?
I don't know where he is.
That crazy son of a bitch Beal has caught on, so don't tell me you don't know where he is.
He could be jumping off a roof for all I know. The man is insane. He's not responsible for himself. He needs care and treatment. And all you grave robbers think about is that he's a hit.
You know, Max, it's just possible that he isn't insane. That he is, in fact, imbued with some special spirit.
My God, I'm supposed to be the romantic. You're supposed to be the hard-bitten realist.
All right.
Like super, of course he's not he's not a real prophet receiving messages from God, Faye Dunaway. You're just saying that because you want to exploit this for your own ends to put him on air. And it's gross, but that's what people do. And we've seen that in our industry. They will justify the desire for money with anything. That's what the entire Saudi invasion of esports has come to. Is people are like, well, what if they are earnest in their intentions to change? It's like, no, we all know they're not, and we all know you're doing this for money. You are now fooling yourself. Her recurring ethically acceptable to do.
Her recurring story beat is super interesting because there's this recurring thing of okay, so what if he's a mad prophet of the hour? She cynically exploits the idea somebody could have visions from God. She also, when she's talking about that witch on Wall Street, and then she gets the arrow reader folded into the news show, she's exploiting that belief system. She exploits communism. For her, there is no belief system.
Remember, she introduces herself as like, "Hey, I'm a lackey for a capitalistic," like some ridiculous.
She goes, "Hi, I'm a lackey for a racist imperialist fucking white corporation or something."
I'm Diana Christensen, a racist lackey of the imperialist ruling circles.
I'm Laureen Hobbs, a badass commie nigger.
Sounds like the basis of a firm friendship.
And then that woman's like, "Hey, I'm a commie bitch," or whatever. Like I said, that labours a bit dialogue, you know.
I get it. Dialogue's a little bit, but I mean, like the point is there isn't. She doesn't believe in anything beyond the network. She doesn't believe in anything but the ratings.
She doesn't even really have relationships.
Think of anything.
Yeah, it's only
I mean, that's the whole thing.
Real,
she's talking while she's having sex with Max Schumacher.
That is hilarious, that scene.
It is very
she's
funny.
Like, she's talking while orgasm, like, it's like...
We'll be front page for months. We'll have more press than Watergate. All I need is 6 weeks federal litigation. And the Mao Zedong can start carrying his own time slot.
She's just talking about the shows and the programming. She literally, capitalism and the corporate world has hollowed her out to such a degree that she can't have any human connections, which is the entire point of her characters.
The one part that doesn't work as a result is when she tries to insult the Schumacher guy and say, like, "You're a bad late." It's like, you were fucking talking the whole time. But anyway, that's my own personal, pet peeve there, but don't worry about it.
Well, that's why it didn't bother him. You know what I mean?
Also, actually, I'll tell you a little, just as a quick aside, it's humorous. I did once have that happen to me. One time when I was in Korea, I actually went on a date with just a Korean girl off like an app or something, and it was one of those ones where it was one of those ones, by the way, where it was set up to end up being a one-night stand, even though you didn't know it. Because here's what happened, Monty. She was even telling me sort of like, and I'm going away like on the weekend to like China for like a university course for like 5 years or something. So it was one of those ones where really, if it works out, you're just going to stick together once, because you can't ever meet each other again. Logistically, it's safe. Right, and this person did this, mate. I won't go into any details, and I won't say who they are. Obviously, it's not a famous person, it's just a random Korean girl. But she actually tried, while having sex, to have like a full conversation with me like this, and I was just wanting to go like this. Not really. We can chop it up afterwards, but this, I'm doing my best work here. Like, what are you? Because she was going, what are you thinking? What are you feeling? Like, what's going on right now? It's not really the moment for that.
No,
is it,
definitely not.
So I was mad triggered by this scene.
It took you back. But I mean, it's. I mean, her character is great, and what I like about it as well is she sort of doesn't have an arc. She's pretty much the same person at the end of the movie. Like, nothing changes her.
That's the whole point.
Yeah. She
also, to speak to the actor element. Remember, think how different she is in Chinatown, where she's just the fucking damsel in distress. Like,
wow.
She has a really bold role in this film.
I mean, this is actually. I mean, obviously she won an Oscar for it, but. This is like, I mean, put it this way: if you've ever watched a Faye Dunaway film, this is when she's at her best, when she's almost got that like little piquant naughtiness about her. She's very sharp, and she's got that, the withering, scathing glare, but she's so irresistible. She's sort of like, she fucking kills it when she's doing things like that. She can do a damsel in distress because obviously she's got all the aspects. Like, oh, I want to save you. Let me save you. Faye Dunaway. She's great. But I mean, like, this is for me. I mean, exactly the type of role.
That's why she's so great in the movie I reference all the time, which is the Michael York 1973 Three Musketeers. She's Milady de Winter. She's the main villain in that. She's awesome.
Yeah, I can. By the way, funnily enough, not a film I've seen, but I can believe
it's great.
Believe it.
It's great.
But I mean, you know, this is like across the 70s and the late 60s as well, because obviously she did Bonnie and Clyde. She did the Bonnie and Clyde movie, which is like, not a lot of people have seen that, but it's fucking really, really good. She just grew into this like leading lady role, and she is so good in this film. Like, really, you couldn't have got a better representation of just the cold, unfeeling, unflinching, malevolent, but not really, because malevolent implies evil, but it's worse than evil. It's like just some sort of like, it's just numbers, it's just data.
It's nihilism. It's the idea evil doesn't even exist.
Exactly.
So why worry about it? Why not just do whatever you have to? It's almost
she absolutely nails it. And like even in the meetings where it's like, bro,
some of the best scenes, the network exec type meetings things are some of the best. Even though what's funny is, I'll bet when this movie came out, people did think like, because think about it again, this came out the same year as All the President's Men. People would watch this film and be like, what an incredibly cynical reading of, you know, like, no, mate, this could be a documentary in the modern days, the joke.
Yeah. And like I said, she's great. I mean, it's really hard because the
By
cast
the way,
is so
Mega
good.
slept on cast.
I was going to say, the cast is
like, think about this. Think about this, right? You have like Robert Duvall's character actor in it. You have even Ned Beatty, who isn't in it enough. But what a great speech at the end of the film. I mean, it's a fucking phenomenal film. Even the guy who plays Howard Beale does a great job. It's actually a sleeper, really good cast.
And they're all. What's really good as well is it's one of those scripts where you can probably make the argument that it's like that hyper realism, because like conversations are never this cool, monologues are never this cool. You never get to do this. You never get to talk like this to anybody in real life, but everyone gets that fucking monologue. It is that Sorkin kind of style dialogue where it's like everybody gets
what he
the
wishes
big
he was doing.
Yeah.
He never really
He's a hack now,
that,
obviously. Yeah,
he thought he was doing
but like, I mean, look, but everyone gets one. Everyone gets like a memorable monologue in this film, a memorable scene. You know, like, and it's truly like, as an actor, you must just fucking like, put it this way: if I'm Peter Finch, right? And you say, right, okay, this is the scene where you say this on air, right? And it's that fucking monologue. And you've got to get up and I want you to go over to the camera and you have to shout in the camera, I'm mad as hell. I'm not going to take this anymore. My life has meaning. I'm a human. Like, oh, fuck, man, this is sick. Like, let's just do this all day. Like, this is great. So it's like, it's really well observed, because what I'm sure at the time felt like, oh, this is where if you allow unchecked corporatism and capitalism to infest every institution, then every institution will have the sensibilities of corporatism. And that's essentially what this movie is about. It's about how political belief systems, when presented with wealth and corporate influence, will inherently pancake in on themselves.
Well, the joke would be, if you'd shown this to someone in the 90s, Richard, they'd go, aha! Fox News.
No,
all of
news
news.
now.
All of news is beholden to the bean counters and the numbers. And does it hit what the sponsor wants? And oh, sorry, that story you were going to break, that's really important. Yeah, that goes against the big merger of our like parent company. Like, this is just real life, right? Again, that part's not at all like over the top at all. Like, normally with satire, you know, you can be pretty like hyperbolic. No, this is like exactly on the nose of what it is like now in reality.
It happened, right? So like, put it this way. This could have been in network. Remember when Russia invaded Ukraine and the air sirens went off and they had footage of that on CNN, and it was like, and it was like they're getting geared up in the newsroom. It's serious mode, right? We've got a war. People are gonna die, and then it just cuts to an Applebee's commercial, and it's a little bit of chicken fried, cold beer on a Friday night. It's like
classic.
That
classic
artifact of that clip is just the most American clip of all time, isn't it? I know. Because I get 2 for $1 stars on Applebee's with your cocktails for free.
But like
So jarring, isn't it? It's so.
Network could have just folded that scene in, and you know, before the mousy tongue hour, you just have an Apple.
But the joke is back then.
I mean, but they do that at the end.
That's you'd be like, no one would ever be that cynical, cut it. Nah, that's unfair. You know, like. I know.
So,
but the funny thing is that the part of the Prussian aspect of this movie is that's the end of the film is him getting gunned down with the music of the commercials, like the Canada Dry commercial in the corner next to it. It's so good.
Network news anchorman on the UBS Network News Show, known to millions as the mad prophet of the airwaves, was shot to death tonight in a fusillade of automatic rifle fire just as he began this evening's broadcast.
Called the Mousy Tongue Hour. Will always, every time I hear it, it works at the first time.
Too good,
it's so
the Mousy
good.
Tongue Hour, man.
It's so good.
It's amazing. So it's like we're beyond network now, but it's like what's really cool is unlike All the President's Men, where All the President's Men is like, oh, we're longing for a time that doesn't exist anymore and can never exist. Network was presenting to you a dystopian future that we are now in. And when you get to look back at it and go, fucking hell, you were on the nose on all of this.
No.
You were absolutely nailed it on the nose.
This actually makes me think that Paddy Chayefsky guy, mate, that guy must be an interesting cat. I'm going to look into it because he had some fucking very interesting, think about the movies he's writing. There's even a quote, I wrote it down in this, that again, how apt is this now? Robert Duvall's character goes, we're not a respectable network. We're a whorehouse network. We have to take what we can get. That just is modern journalism, I can tell you.
Yeah. I mean, what you have to understand about when he was creating this, he was working on a TV series and like another comedy TV series, and what it was about like a group of political subversives that infiltrate a TV network and then they undermine the corporate messaging from within. And it says here, right, in a script note he wrote, "We are not dealing with a human institution. We are dealing with an enormous profit-making machine." And then in the end, his TV series didn't get optioned. And so he sort of bastardized parts of that script to essentially fold it into what was going to be Network. And what he did, he had a friend at NBC, and he literally, it was an executive. And so he was allowed into newsroom production meetings. He was, he got to watch like all of the way news was filmed. He went and met with Walter Cronkite over at CBS at the time. And basically he like absorbed all of what broadcast media was. And this is what came out in the end, which, you know, obviously when you're a satirist, you dial everything up to, you dial it up to 10 to make the point. But satire can't function if it's not inherently true on some level, right? Like an absurdist satire doesn't really exist, because it's like, how can I satirize something that isn't real to begin with? So what's terrifying is he went and researched this like he was writing a documentary, like the type of thing you would do if you were like wanting to make All the President's Men. He did that. But this is what came out at the end, script-wise. So fuck knows what he heard in those meetings.
Some of the details that you would think, again, it's like, you're pushing out a bit too. You've done a bit of a Jonathan Swift on the satire there, but you've gone too far. No, again, all on the nose. Like, think about even the idea that this person is mentally ill and has had a breakdown and is just saying nonsense, but you don't go, well, it'd be unethical to put him on camera. You just go, start rolling, and you just put it, mate, that is Glenn Beck, that's Kanye West, that's Alex Jones, it's all these people. Like, in the modern day, if anything, you put more cameras on a fucker when they're saying unhinged shit. Like, you don't go, well, let's have a bit of decorum and get them off the air. Like, and no, because that would have seen, all I think to myself is this. When this movie came out in 1976, you'd think, holy fuck, this is a really out there film. But now, so much of it almost just seems like you had the script for what was coming.
Yeah. Well, it's also that it really was very aware of the fact that when presented with a balanced news segment, the more interesting thing is a guy just going on an unhinged rant. because that is more entertaining and base. And
I like when they
Richard
literally give him that set that is like a stained glass window behind him.
Yes.
It's so over the top, isn't it? It's also, by the way, a very American film as well in that sense.
Yeah.
This is a very much American sensibility.
But like Jerry Springer, I mean, I was watching a Jerry Springer documentary that came out on Netflix recently that's incredibly interesting about how they kind of broke the rules with that show and how everybody else thought it was disgusting and they just didn't care because their ratings were going higher and higher.
Well,
so
but there's even a line like that in this
Monty.
Remember the line where Robert Duvall's character says something like, the FCCA can shove it, like, like
all they can do is give us a slap on the wrist.
Yeah, that's what they're almost like hinting at this sort of a TV. Yeah.
Well, and then it's gone even further, obviously, in the streaming era, because now that you don't remember the idea of network is that at one point in time there had to be somebody who was making, or a committee of people making, these programming or editorial decisions. Now you can just go online on Twitch or YouTube and do this all you want.
It's like you say, by the way, and I know what you mean. This is like people like Hassan Piker may as well just be like a shit version of Howard Beale in this.
Yes.
Like, he's thinking he's saying some raw shit. Not the America deserved 9/11 and so on. Brilliant, great statement, okay. But like, the joke in the modern day, by the way, is you don't pull those people off camera. You make them your superstars. They are the modern media superstars.
And that's when the ratings go through the fucking roof.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, there's a aspect to this, which is obviously people want the authentic experience. What this movie.
I mean, what's disgusting, Richard, is they don't want the truth.
Yes.
They want the perception of authenticity.
Yes.
But in the authenticity, what they perceive as authentic is just off the cuff. That doesn't mean it's true.
Yeah, and
they don't care about whether it's true or not. And that's the disturbing thing.
It's this thing that comes up, and you'll have seen this in the real world, and you'll certainly see it a lot in the movies. This idea that we want the truth, and we want you to be authentic, and we want you to be credible, and we want you to speak your mind. And so what we'll do is we'll allow you to do that. But the minute you start curating it, it is by definition false. It is a contrivance, and so that is essentially where this goes to. And what we also learn about Howard Beale is he's not a particularly likable or sympathetic character. He's just a sad, tragic, mentally ill man who, by the way, even his values are up for sale, and not even for sale. When he goes and has the meeting with the Ned Beatty character, the president of the corporation that bought the network. And he literally says to him, like, we need you. We don't want you saying we need the Saudi money. We don't want you saying bad things about Saudi. We need you to go out and proselytize about how good capitalism is and how good the businesses are. And it's like, it's completely antithetical to what his original messaging was. But Beale agrees to do it and says, I've seen the face of God, which, by the way, he sees God everywhere. He's hearing voices all the time. None of it is even tonally consistent. He's just a sad figure. He's just a risible figure. And so obviously...
I forgot that part as well, Richard. When I remember this movie, I remember that, like, he was unhinged, but he was sort of like right on, wasn't he? When you see all those scenes where he's just... It seems pathetic after the first speech, man. Like, you kind of don't vibe with him that much. You sort of like, look, some of the shit he's saying's right, but you're also you're off the fucking plot.
It becomes what the movie does a good job of is it becomes clear the longer the movie goes just how like pathetic it all is. That it goes from being this spontaneous eruption of frustration, which people can identify with, who hasn't had the fantasy of like, I'm going to fucking tell my boss to fucking stick the job up their ass, call on my co-workers, cunts, flip them off as I'm leaving the building. Like we all hold on some level the fantasy of the big explosive eruption of truth, my truth, right? But the longer it goes on, you realize kind of like, by the time you're a catchphrase, and they're going, we're as mad as hell and we're not going to take it anymore in the audience being told to do it by a floor manager. By the time you're at that stage, where is the authenticity? And it's really, I mean, look, there's nothing subtle.
It's also so perfect that was sampled so much, which will have then made giant music labels and therefore the biggest corporations in America loads of millions of dollars from what was originally supposed to be a subversive speech against like capitalism and
but
I love it. I love how stupid that is.
There's so many meta levels of irony like baked into it. But obviously it does. I think the movie does a really good job of just presenting the protagonist, I guess, as sort of just being a joke, like a laughable figure. In fact, the only one
I would even say in this film, like that's why I say I sort of like vibed with the
Max
Holden guy.
Schumer. Yeah.
That's the only character I actually thought maintained some level of like dignity or like was like reflective enough to seem like they understood what was going on. And by the way, that's why I also say I actually think the script is very well written as well as it's a well acted film. Like as much as it's like a comedy, they're not making like the lines stupid. No. This is like a really well written script with like really interesting dialogue, and like you can tell, like we say, like with the bit with the comedy, you can tell when they're veering into the absurdist. But when you do like the relationship stuff, a lot of that is actually, I think, very realistically scripted. It's well done.
Yeah, and Max is kind of the only character in it that sort of does have any kind of semblance.
He has an arc. Yeah. He actually does have an arc.
He has an arc, and he does have a semblance of humanity. But even he is willing to sort of surrender it for very trite reasons, and he is, by his own definitions of how he would think about himself conceptually as a man, he is also a failure. You know, he can't.
Oh, I find that whole thing with him and his wife heartbreaking.
He
that
can't
resist.
Quite
pointed. That's not.
Yeah,
comedy.
exactly. He can't resist Faye Dunaway because he is a sad old man who knows he's never going to get. You know.
Also, it's Faye Dunaway, Richard, as you say, right in her peak, going, "What do you know, girl with daddy issues? What can we make of that?"
It's mental as well. Like, she's that explicit with it as well.
Give me a break. Yeah, so we've all seen Chinatown.
Yeah, exactly.
Although that was a few years after.
Yeah, so you know, obviously, like he gives a speech. He goes, "Listen, I'm obsessed with her. I can't stop thinking about her. I am going to cheat on you." Like, you know, and then he's living with her for 6 months.
By the way, another example, Richard, of how people say they want honesty, but they don't. He does exactly what every woman would claim they want. He says, like, essentially, like, I'm not totally in love with her, but I am going to see her again. Look, I don't know how this will work out. Maybe I even come back to you. That's the last thing she wants to hear. Mate. She'd rather he lied to her, say any old shit. But I know what you mean. That in some ways, the truth was the worst thing he could have said there. Even though this is a totally bang on thing to do, he's trying to be honest.
But also as well, like his own frustrations with the way his career has like played out. And how, you know, he fails to protect his friend. He's in and out of his job, which he's jaded about. By the way, he was like, he was essentially complicit with Howard Beale. You know, at the start, he goes, "If this is the way he wants to go out, then we're going to do it." So he creates this. He essentially created the monster that gets turbocharged by the.
He's also the avatar of the honorable newsman from All the President's Men within this movie. So he gets to see his friend who used to have high ratings, who has slipped into obscurity. He tries to protect him, and instead he's the one who ends up getting fired, not his friend. It starts out with his friend getting fired. It ends with him getting fired. And then not only that, he gets to see the entire ideals of journalism that he led his life living get flushed down the toilet, and everything that he worked for, his friend is crazy, his ethics are irrelevant, and he doesn't have a job anymore.
Yeah.
And his entire department is
think about this.
consumed.
So he's the sort of guy who does go on about how he's sacrificed all these years, and he's not. By the way, the implication obviously he's sacrificed his personal relationships. So then, when he's not involved in it, he gets involved in a personal relationship with someone who does the same thing to him because they're busy with all the offers and all the deals, and they haven't got time for him. They're always on the phone. It's like, rich that, isn't it, mate? Yeah, you've actually sort of get a taste of the other side now, haven't you?
Yeah, and like I say, I mean, you know, there's nobody comes out of this movie as likable or relatable. They're all insane in
there's not really any protagonist / hero, is there?
They're all insane in their own way. I mean, like the political figures in this are terrorists, and like they're not even committed to the cause, but they're happy to kill people. You've obviously got, I mean, Howard Beale is mentally ill by definition. That's the driving force of the whole story. But Faye Dunaway is a fucking sociopath, and fucking Max Schumacher is a fucking, you know, he's just pathetic in his own way. He's just a crumpled shell of a man.
Well, I mean, he abandons his marriage for no reason for a woman who is not emotionally available,
and it's implied might just be going back at the end because it didn't work out. Like he's gonna go revisit that.
Well, he's so cynical. I mean, he's just so jaded by the end. He's like, well, I guess I'll just go try and see if it works out, and if not, well, fuck it. Like he's completely embraced nihilism by the end of the film.
And Robert Duvall, obviously, as well as the brilliantly named Frank Hackett, you know, as a fucking corporate hatchet man. He's just great. It's like I said, one of the great mysteries about this is in the Oscars, you know, Peter Finch got it posthumously Best Actor. Faye Dunaway got Best Actress. They nominated Ned Beatty for one scene, that scene where he gives the speech about the death of corporations, and he was nominated for Best Supporting Actor. But like Robert Duvall should have been Best Supporting Actor nominee for sure.
I got a hit, Schumacher, and Ruddy doesn't count anymore. He was hoping I'd fall on my face with his Beal show, but I didn't. It's a big, fat, big-titted hit, and I don't have to waffle around with Ruddy anymore. If he wants to take me up before the CCA board, let him. Do you think Ruddy is stupid enough to go to the CCA board and say, I'm taking our one hit show off the air? And comes November 14, I'm going to be standing up there at the annual CCA Management Review meeting, and I'm going to announce projected earnings for this network for the first time in 5 years. And believe me, Mr. Jensen's going to be sitting there rocking back and forth in his little chair, and he's going to say, that's very good, Frank. Keep it up. So don't have any illusions about who's running this network from now on. You're fired. I want you out of your office before noon, or I'll have you thrown out.
Because he kills
anyway, another one of those
in.
people also who has an unbelievable resume for an actor.
He's 94 now, bro. So like, without putting too fine a point on it, we'll be doing.
He was still doing films recently as well.
Dude, he did one where it was with Robert Downey Jr. and it's like Robert Downey Jr. is the practicing. This sounds like one of those elevator pitches from the play. Robert Downey Jr. is like a fucking jaded, cynical lawyer, and his father is the judge, and they're estranged. But then his dad gets terminally ill, and so Robert Downey Jr. goes to like nurse him through the illness, and they reconnect. It's like it's one of them, right? But like it is brutal. Like he's specifically got bowel cancer, and he shits himself in this film. I'm like, fucking hell, this is dark, bro. So yeah, he's still killing it, man. Like he'll go as far as the.
I mean, we haven't. All I'm going to say about Robert Duvall is we still haven't done Apocalypse Now or Godfather Part 2.
Listen,
so.
Duvall is like in the same way we said about Gene Hackman. Although I would argue Robert Duvall is a finer actor. Robert Duvall just once a decade will just turn up in probably the best film of that decade.
Sure.
Like he's got a generational run of movies. It's fucking mental. And even like some of his 90s output, like what's that legal one he did?
A Civil Action.
Civil Action. That low key, that he's wicked in that. Show stealer in that. I mean, he's up against Travolta, right, in the Civil Action, but you know, but anyway, Robert Duvall, I love him, and he's a scene stealer in this. He's really good at just being the angry corporate guy who like just puts everyone down. You know, like when the president's going, "I won't let you bastardize the news like this," and he's like, "Oh, your fucking objections. You know, your indignation is duly noted. You can resign in the morning if you want. Now, what are we gonna do?" He doesn't give a fuck. He's just so dismissive of everyone. And also as well, look, I wouldn't lay claim to have any insight into this stuff, but having been part of a TV show, I have seen the kind of almost cynical way that certain topics can be approached, and you know, we'll have to run that by standards and practices. You know, and we've got the copy approved from legal, and it's like you do realize just what what an artificial construct it all is. Like from, you know, like so I was
even this idea that something you must know isn't good and isn't even what you want on your network because it's popping, you have to like, what the hell? Now I love this. Yeah. Like the joke would be when we did E-League, if I'd done that line on Shaq and it had just fallen dead like a fucking sack of bricks and Shaq had been annoyed and no one had laughed, afterwards they would go, oh, don't do that again. But because it popped, they were like, they're brilliant. Yeah, awesome. That's exactly what we want.
You got a winner.
Do you really? I think you just said that because you like the result. You would have never told us to do that. If I'd have told you in advance, I'm going to do this, you'd say, don't do that. You know what I mean?
I mean, but this is the part of it as well. It's the concept that like actually the adults in the room at the network, they don't know what they're doing. They're like they don't understand what works. They've got a failing network. They get an accidental hit. And Faye Dunaway is able to sort of like leverage that to make, presumably, the Mousy Tongue Hour isn't going to do well. You know, I think that's kind of implied.
I don't know about that, Richard. Like, honestly, the idea of starting an episode with real terrorist events is just, I mean, basically, that's like a true crime podcast now, in a way.
I mean, you know, I'll say as well, all of the other aspects she's put into the Howard Beale show. with it's like you've got the tarot reader, Matahari and the secret keyhole things. It's obviously like about scandal and salaciousness, and then they've got that Vox Populi, like the talking heads shit is like that was a staple on news. I've never understood it, by the way, as a format. So a journalist goes out to a public area, points a microphone at plebs, and they say what they think about a news event. Well, I don't give a fuck. I've got my own thoughts, you know. But people will that became like something. It's just something news does now, where it's like, and now we go to Middlesbrough to find out about the closures of John Shepherd. Right, you fucking.
And then the evolution of that was the Jerry Springer like interviewing people in the audience about the salacious stuff that was going on stage.
Yeah.
My favorite shit used to be on Jerry Springer. There's still some great clips online when people would just insult them from the audience.
No, I know, yeah.
That's roasting them.
Yeah, but like what's that about? I told you as well, because obviously we had our equivalents of Jerry Springer in the UK.
Yeah, of course. Except here's what's brilliant, Monty. Ours are even more lowbrow. Jeremy Kyle. Like ours really are like everyone's just had like.
I know you're thinking how much lower can the bar be set? Oh yeah. I mean, put it this way:
the darkness.
Jeremy Kyle got it closed down essentially because a guy, right, a mentally ill, mentally vulnerable person went on the show and he was took one of them. He wanted to prove to his wife that he hadn't cheated. And they put him through a lie detector test, and he failed the lie detector, right? You know, the total pseudoscience bullshit.
Which, remember, famously isn't like that can just mean you are too nervous. But
it has no scientific basis whatsoever. Right?
No.
Right?
Yeah. But there's a reason we don't do it in court. Like, if it really worked, you just use that all the time. You don't feel alive, but it doesn't work.
Anyway, it ruined his life. So, because she didn't believe him, she believed in the lie detector test. And Jeremy Kyle was like, Jeremy Kyle's going, yeah, I got you just because Jeremy Kyle's whole shtick was.
Monty, here's the difference. You know how Jerry Springer would almost try at the end to spin it as if he was like a preacher and it'd be like a positive message. Like, no, what the Jeremy Kyle guy would do for real is say he found you were the philanderer. He would on TV lecture you like some fucked up school mom. And so in this case, you're essentially accidentally wrong, but just sort of telling someone it's all your fault, basically. Like in a really outrageous
Let me tell you, if the cameras weren't here, here's what I'd do to a man like you. In fact, I can't even call you a man. You're a worm. And the crowd would be going like, yeah.
Oh, they'd be all loving it, yeah.
So anyway, this dude killed himself and left a note saying, I'm innocent, and and then it turned out he hadn't cheated, right? And so anyway, there was a big investigation. A judge called the Jeremy Kyle show human bear baiting.
Fire line, by the way. Fire line.
And completely accurate.
Well
done. And so anyway, there's levels to the game, Monty, that you might not be aware of. But I mean, look, it again, that's why this movie's so fucking wonderfully prescient, because ultimately we ended up with a whole genre of television shows put on, by the way, at the time, like it was programming for the terminally unemployed. Like who's it for? Like it's just on at like 10 a.m. when everyone's at work, and it'll just be like, Trisha or Jeremy Kyle or Jerry Springer or whatever it might be. And it's a live crowd of also presumably jobless people berating the underclass in society over things that are like really like, what are we even talking about? Like, it's like, these aren't big issues. Like, I'm cheating on the wife. I love the Jerry Springer one where it's like, today I reveal that I'm really a man to my boyfriend. And then you have the manifestation of gay panic. And what is this? Who's this for? What is it? I mean, all the while, the host of the show is some sort of smug avatar of the self-righteous, sneering loser that's watching at home. Like, it's really fucked up. But baked into the premise of that programming is you are exploiting vulnerable people. And here we are, network, 1976. Watch as a TV network exploits vulnerable people for entertainment. And it's like, wow, okay, yeah, we did do that.
And now notice the one thing you can also agree with this film on is it wouldn't just be the rare, really sort of egregious. No, that this would become the default way of operating and doing business. Yep. If anything, you'd be the weirdo to be in the executive meeting going, is this really right to do though? But our numbers really our God. Like you would be the lunatic to be doing that at this point in time. That's how far the time.
We need a winner. We need a winner.
It also just shows how these systems and enable sociopaths, because Hackett not Faye Dunaway's character, who is a sociopath, but also Hackett, Robert Duvall's character, is a sociopath. And the way that he's spinning it when he fires Max Schumacher is that nobody's going to give a shit because he has a hit show, and when he goes to the board and puts the figures in front of their faces and the new prophets, that he's just going to get away with it and he's going to be
by the way
king.
As well, remember one thing they do that's quite fair in the script too is when the guy's spoken out against a bunch of the shit he's not supposed to, the Robert Duvall guy now thinks he's fired too. Like, it's not like he's just the big boss doing whatever he wants. He also has crazy corporate pressures on him to make this division turn around and to become its own self-sufficient thing, etc. Like, that's actually quite accurate too. The idea that, like, no matter what result comes out, someone's getting fired and someone else is going a different direction. Yeah.
I mean, look, there's definitely like a almost monstrous form that we all recognize, right? Like, we've all worked now probably in like a corporate environment to some degree, where it is just results driven. The ends always justifies the means. We pretend.
But enough about the Overwatch.
No, but we pretend that we we pretend that we don't do that, right? And we don't believe that.
Sure,
but obviously the reality is, we fucking we do things.
By the way, one thing that Monty referenced earlier, but now you said it, I can't get it out of my head, Monty, is I can understand it. Like, for example, when they watch the movies before they do the Oscars and stuff like that, and it's like for your eyes only, obviously on the teaser, famously, that we've all seen in the modern day, because all they all get leaked, don't they? Right when they're watching those scenes, you can see why someone remembering only the highlights would remember the Ned Beatty speech. That was actually probably the best of the speeches. It was actually like a critique of culture. But I agree, Monty, it's actually shot in a really jarring way. Even though I'm a massive Sidney Lumet fan, normally you would shoot that really up close, wouldn't you? You'd have like the person's face, you'd see all the. It's shot in some weird way where they bring him in a room. You're with like Howard Beale right at the end of the table, and the speech is happening like right at the back of the camera here.
But that's the whole point, because his face is illuminated like he's God, and he's delivering this divine message, and he is so far above. Because you have to remember, people think, oh well, the guy who's on TV, he's the guy who's calling the shots. There are like multiple levels between Howard Beale and what's his name, Jensen?
Jensen.
Yes, Jensen.
Yeah, Arthur Jensen. Who is played by Ned Beatty in this, and for him to be called up to the boss's corporate suite where he has
it's literally the boardroom,
giant conference table.
It's literally the boardroom.
Yeah, it's the boardroom, and is he doesn't actually have that many, or has probably never had any interactions really with this man. And now he is getting the truth delivered to him. So I actually love the way it's shot. I just think it's weird to give him a Best Supporting Actor nomination, because you can't. I think his performance is excellent, but you can't. It's not very nuanced because you can't really see his face. You know what I mean?
That is the atomic and subatomic and galactic structure of things today. And you have meddled with the primal forces of nature. And you will atone. Am I getting through to you, Mr. Beale?
Yeah, I mean, look, I like the way that's shot, because it does have this almost like otherworldly quality to it.
It's great.
What you're hearing coming out of the mouth of the executive as well is like, it's like, it is a horrifying speech. Like, he's not like funny.
But it's also a horrifying truth.
Yeah,
and it is almost in a world where all of this has been bullshit. You know what I mean? And I think he's right. He collapses all the distinctions, and he basically makes the case that there isn't any political difference in a world of globalized capitalism. And even by the 70s, that the Soviet Union and the United States really aren't very different. They say their ideals are different, but their practices are largely the same, and they're all looking at the same bottom lines at the end of the day, and that's what's driving their decision making, and that's what's driving his decision making. And he says, this is the new religion, this is the new world order, and you are basically a heretic. You are a heretic against capitalism, and that is your crime. And now you must atone, which is fucking great.
Yeah, and like, look, the the messaging as well is like every kind of section of the movie, because there is like about 4 or 5 intersecting plot lines.
A dense film, actually. That's another thing. You remember it's just being the speech and the TV thing. It's sort of like 3 different plots all spinning amongst each other.
Yeah, and they all intersect because all the people are involved in each of them, you know. And so what it does is, in the same way that it makes like these bold proclamations about the future of like what end stage capitalism would look like, and obviously we're here now, guys. It also basically it eviscerates every single institution along the way. Marriage, you know, even marriage isn't spared, you know, like fucking you've obviously got the newsroom, you know, the idea of community, that's, you know, communism, any form of political theory. It's kind of like, it really just says like nothing that capitalism touches.
It's nihilistic.
Nothing that capitalism touches can like resist the corrupting influence of it. There is nothing. There is not, and like I said, Faye Dunaway is brilliant because she proves she's like a pod person, you know. She's just imbued with fucking corporate sensibilities, and all she looks at is the fucking the bottom line. The end just by the means. I mean, this is a film, by the way, that is so on point. It has the phrase in it, CPM. I fucking caught myself. Oh, shit.
That's wild.
It actually has CPM. They're talking about the fucking,
which is
$4 CPM.
Yeah, I mean, which is funny because, like, obviously that hasn't changed in 50 years. And as part of, you know, our business, guys, on podcasts, a lot of my time is spent dealing with CPMs with our advertisers.
Yeah.
So it's the same shit, even what we do here.
Listen, Monty, when you're in a business meeting, feel free to drop the line that Richard Lewis is an angry prophet denouncing the hypocrisies of our time.
I want to be one. I want to be one of them. I want to be one of them. Like, but
and also, we do need that Saudi money back. So.
No, I mean, but like,
sample that if anything.
Yeah, we will get right on that. I mean, look, that is just a mad thing about it. It's like, it's so hard now in 2025 to look back at a time when this would have been a satire, like, because it's like I'm appreciating the movie on a totally different level to what people in 1976 would. It's like, here's a satire, here's a dystopian view of the future, where I'm going to make a series of humorous guesses about where broadcast journalism might be, where corporatism might be in, you know, 10 years from now. And you get every single guess correct to the point where it's indistinguishable from just what normal broadcast programming is now.
But also it, you know, it like I said, it presaged the death of the Soviet Union and McDonald's next to the Kremlin. You know what I mean? Like it has it all. It was not just journalism, it's world events.
The guy who wrote the screenplay died in 1981, bro. He doesn't even know that this all happened.
Well,
that's fucking bonkers.
I mean, obviously, we talked about Paddy Chayefsky and his tragic death for the Altered States episode, but just in case people skipped out on that because, you know, they watched the film. It is sad. Basically, he'd done another satire called The Hospital, which was a dark lampooning of the medical profession. And because Paddy Chayefsky had problems with institutions, it seemed. And basically, he got like a nominally treatable illness, but he was too scared to go and get treatment for it because he was convinced that the doctors would like let him die on the table because the satire that he wrote. So in the end, he took like some sort of bullshit treatment and died pretty young. And you know, he's the only guy, by the way, that won 3 Oscars for best screenplay. He got 3 of them. He's the only individual writer that has that accolade to their name. And so who knows what he would have gone on to do. I mean, this guy is the definition of a visionary.
And Network was one of those, and it won Best Original Screenplay. This is the same year that our previous film, All the President's Men, won Best Adapted Screenplay. So they cleaned up the awards that year.
Yeah, oh, certainly. And look, I'm so glad this movie it's the antidote to the nonsense of All the President's Men, because as we know, if there were 2 prevailing ideas, right, and one is, you know, truth is at the center of journalism, broadcast or print, and we must always pursue it and speak truth to power, or actually power and corporatism and money will corrupt everything that it touches, and eventually that will apply to your beloved sacred journalism too. Well, we now know, which movie was the more correct of the two. And by the way, not even close, to a point where there are parts of Network that are kind of like quite quaint when you think about some of the like ghoulish.
But think how wild that is, Richard. Again, if we were watching these two movies as a Barbenheimer back to back in 1976, the idea we would come out of the theater and turn, and someone would step. You know what? Fuck it, I'll make it the funny version. A phone booth appears. Out comes fucking George Carlin and Monty, and they go, "You don't know who we are, but basically in the future, believe it or not, all the president's men ages quite poorly and is actually stupid and quaint." But this movie, Network, is almost like a documentary. You'd be like, "What are you talking about?" But that is actually accurate. Yeah, you're on the money.
That is what happened.
That's the ultimate black pill, though, where the noble truth of journalism dies in the capitalist sensationalist hell that is Network.
Well, I mean, also as well, I mean, look, it's kind of interesting because I imagine it was quite a shocking idea in '76 that a network might take actual live terrorist atrocities and broadcast them and then create dramatizations around them. Well, I mean, you think about the popularity on media of like, the rise of like Live Leak and stuff that came out with the early internet. And then, of course, the absolute insanity of the almost like pornographic levels of reportage that was done around 9/11, to the point where it's like, I don't need to see that thought with that man who jumps out.
They did go on and on. I know what you mean. Pornography is the best term for it, Richard, because they weren't doing it like, "Hey, let's all face the harsh reality of what's happened." They were almost getting off on the idea of it was almost like some face of death shit. Like, look at this, look, he's really dying. Like, keep watching. You can't look away. It's rubbernecking in a crash. No, there was something sick about that. I know what you mean.
And like that also kind of feels like that time period is pretty much another threshold, another Rubicon, where it was like the news programming that came out of that was just so like, obviously it's a tragedy, right? But it's like also it was like this maudlin presentation of this horrifying atrocity, and then where can we take it to? And then of course the war reporting. We're attaching cameras to fucking missiles, watching them go down air ducts to blow up. We're watching this in real time, and live now. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, this is crazy. But that's kind of,
even in some ways has now become that fucked up thing that now people, not even through media, just watch that on social media with their coffee.
Yeah.
Oh, is that guy getting killed by a drone? Oh, wait a minute, that's my side. That's
no, but I mean, it's like, so think about like this is just a mental thing to say, but think about the number of like viral clips of like people that are being killed in like a war or whatever it might be. Just think about how many you've been exposed to. Like, you wouldn't have ever been exposed to anything like that in the '70s. You just wouldn't.
It's just in your algorithm in the modern game. It's just in your social media feed each morning, like some dystopian nightmare.
So obviously when she's pitching the Mousy Tongue Hour, it's hilarious in '76. Like, well, they'd never do that. Well, listen, I've woke up today and fucking gone on Twitter and just seen someone get fucking melted by some Reaper drone. That is the new, new type of fucking massacre machine being pumped out by the American military. And then I have a cup of, like you say, I have a cup of coffee and a sandwich and just get on with my day. It's like, that can't be good for people's minds. Like, it can't be healthy that we are swimming in this like saturation of death and violence and sex and war, and we can connect. We can connect with every celebrity opinion in seconds. Oh, I wonder what Taylor Swift thinks about this war. None of this can be good for your brain, and it certainly isn't. I mean, we've talked in the past about like, I felt my attention span shrink because of social media. I'm always like, find my hand like the fucking guy out of Doctor Strangelove. My phantom hand is always like crawling across my sofa towards my phone, like on an almost subconscious level. But like, I mean, obviously, like, what has this done to me psychologically? And like network is saying we would get to a point where this would be normalized, but not really. This is a satire. But we're so far past the Mousy Tongue Hour. it's like you say. I mean, like the #1 Twitch streamer is the Mousy Tongue Hour. It's so ubiquitous.
Openly in many different occasions, he has praised terrorism itself against the USA while living in the USA, broadcasting on platforms of the biggest companies in the USA. Like the idea that's even possible, again, that should be satire. It isn't satire. It's just harsh reality, and no one even takes it as something crazy. Now it's just déclassé. It's just normal. Nothing weird about it.
Can I read some of Roger Ebert's review of this?
Oh, yeah, we left Ebert out of the last episode as well, didn't we?
It's okay. He did give it 4 stars.
Okay.
But
he's had a good run lately, Roger Ebert, mind.
Yeah.
He's had a good run.
This is the redemption.
I will read a little bit of this to you guys. Okay. And what Network seems to be telling us is that television itself is like that, an economic process in the blind pursuit of ratings and technical precision, in which excellence is as accidental as banality. True.
Yeah.
If the movie had stayed with this theme, we might have had a very bitter little classic here. As it is, we have a supremely well-acted, intelligent film that tries for too much, that attacks not only television, but also most of the other ills of the 70s. We are asked to laugh at, be moved by, or get angry about such a long list of subjects. Sexism and ageism and revolutionary ripoffs and upper middle class enemy and capitalist exploitations and Nielsen ratings and psychics and that perennial stand by the failure to communicate. Chayefsky's script isn't a bad one, but he finally loses control of it. There's just too much he wanted to say. By the movie's end, the anchorman is obviously totally insane and is being exploited by blindly ambitious programmers on the one hand and corrupt businessmen on the other. The scale of evil is so vast, we've lost track of the human values.
Yeah, reasonable.
Which He's right. But the thing is like, I don't find that Chayefsky loses control of it, and I don't think it's too much. If anything, it's intentionally doing that to inundate you with every satirical thing he could come up with. And all of it became true. So it doesn't feel overwhelming because we've all seen it play out.
My one problem with...
To be fair, that review, I looked it up, is from 2000 though.
So no, there's 2. There's 2 reviews.
Okay.
There's one from 2000 where he revisited it, and there's one from 1976.
Right.
Yeah.
This is actually from the year it came out, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then to be fair, he also was. I'll give him actually I'll give Roger Ebert a bit of fucking benefit of the doubt. You couldn't in 1976 really do an accurate review of what we know now. I said, a lot of what we've discussed in this episode is all the crazy things that have happened since then. So I don't blame him as much if it came out then. Like I can see why he would think it was incredibly ambitious. It's kind of our fault the first time I saw it.
So I do have some problems with the movie. Obviously, I don't think it's flawless. And I can agree with Roger Ebert. I mean, like obviously. I guess you can certainly say the script is unfocused, even if it is brilliant, right? Like it's definitely dense in terms of like what institutions it wants to attack, what it's trying to say. But I mean, how could you?
It does pack in a lot.
Yeah. How could you critique all of corporate American society, like all of society, essentially, in one movie that is ostensibly about a network television anchor losing his marbles? You know, you couldn't really fit it all in. So obviously, I'll forgive Paddy Chayefsky for that. It's still one of the greatest fucking screenplays ever written, right? It's hugely influential. But I'll also say as well, I think structurally, unfortunately, the movie has a tendency to. It kind of does meander in parts where you want it to be a little bit tighter and a little bit more focused. It's fine because you enjoy living in the world that network has created, and you enjoy spending time with the characters and seeing the inadvertent hilarity of it all. But there's definitely some scenes that feel superfluous, where it's like, oh, could we put something else here and something else there? I think the voiceover as a narrative framing, this is the story of Howard Beale, you know, the way that it does that like 4 times, I think, in the film, including right at the end. I don't think that needs to be there. I don't. In fact, is it even Howard Beale's story? The movie feels bigger than that, and the voiceover tries to shrink it down to a scale that I'm perfectly fine with accepting Howard Beale as not being the protagonist, being a very small, pathetic, sad man, a cog in a huge corporate machine. I mean, these make more sense to me tonally thinking about it. And obviously, the ending is hugely flawed because it is essentially a hard cut to black when he's killed. Now, you can.
Would ask, how do you end this film?
Yeah, sure,
you know what I mean?
Sure.
It's pretty hard to stick the landing on this one.
And look, there are some obviously unfinished aspects. I wouldn't have minded Faye Dunaway and William Holden's arc to have been tied off a little bit better. instead of just the presumption, it's fizzled out and he's going to go back to his wife or whatever. I mean, obviously we can intuit that, but it would have been nice to have a scene or something. I don't know how you end this movie. I mean, ultimately, like, Howard Beale is, I think it's always kind of implied he's terminally ill as well with the seizures, like it's a brain tumor or something.
Sure.
It's kind of like coded like that, but it's never explicitly said. And so it's very hard. I don't know how you end the movie. I mean, he has to die. I agree with that. The interlinking the Mousy Tongue Hour launch party by killing their own TV anchor is a fantastic idea. It's just
I think it's very funny.
Yeah, I mean, it's like maybe you just need an addendum, like just an extra scene where it's like
I don't know. I don't mind the ending because playing the jingles over the top of it. I mean, we were just laughing at the
Applebee's,
Ukraine war into Applebee's ad. It's still fucking funny 50 years later.
Yeah. Well, the difference is this is happening in a dark comedy, Monty. That was happening in real life on a major news network in America in the present day.
They're still both funny.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
But what I'm saying is the fact that we can make that reference just goes to show how on point this film is, that they would be playing the jingles over the top of it. They did. We've seen it happen. It literally happened, right?
Yep.
And the tragedy is being exploited for monetary gain.
Well, I mean,
so I don't really have a problem with the end of this.
Yeah, it's just a bit too abrupt. You see, for a movie that's this verbose, and for a movie that is so crackling with like sharp dialogue and big speeches, and essentially the action beats in this movie are the monologues, right? You leap from monologue to brilliant monologue throughout the film.
Yeah, it's basically a stage play.
Yeah, exactly.
We talked about, I mean, Lumet does a lot of films that could be staged. 12 Angry Men. We talked about how Dog Day Afternoon could easily be put on a stage. This could easily be put on a stage.
Also seems really good at filming dialogue scenes, quite frankly.
Yeah.
It seems like a major strength.
Well, I mean, he's from, he did a lot of stage work. So it's like, obviously, if you think about how a play is constructed and, what your attention is meant to be drawn to visually via lighting on the stage, Lumet essentially applies that to screen. And I mean, by the way, all of his we said this in the Dog Day Afternoon episode, just the super slept on like director, actually, because I mean he's another guy with like,
by the way,
really
he
good...
would be a perfect guy for our fucking sweet spot narrative. The amount of 6.x movies this guy has done that are way better than a 6.x rating on IMDb is crazy. Again, another one of those people who did a billion movies, a billion great actors he worked with, screenwriters. Like, actually, for real, the most slept on director ever.
Yeah, I could agree. I can get on board with that, because I mean, it's like when you think about the movies that he's like known for, like Dog Day Afternoon, or going all the way back. I mean, like, he started with 12 Angry Men, so it's like fucking
pretty amazing.
Yeah, but just a hell of a way to fucking put your calling card
also
out
insane
there.
longevity too as well. Yeah,
but I mean, like, he did one in the 80s with Treat Williams called, it's probably Treat Williams' best film. That's Prince of the City.
Another one you talk
Prince
about.
Of the City.
Mad slept on.
That is such a slept on.
If you like films of people who are informants and in the mafia, it's fucking mega. It's, no one knows.
That's the, if we ever do a Lumet arc, that's mine, because I really love that film. And he's just such a talented like director that's like super slept on. But this is kind of interesting, because this isn't what I associate with Sidney Lumet, because this is very big. Like, you think about, like, he did obviously like Serpico and Dog Day Afternoon. You think about those kind of like, you're in a place and there's lots of people, and but it's more about like this understated, like, people are trying to keep their shit together. That's what is usually going on in the Sidney Lumet film. It's like he likes to work with actors that can do a lot of facial stuff, because it's about them trying not to unravel in exceptional circumstances. That's like a typical Sidney Lumet beat. Again, like, think about 12 Angry Men. Think about what that is, right? The pressure cooker, classic hot and sweaty environment, and there's a guy's life on the line, and I've got to convince the jurors. That's Sidney Lumet in a nutshell. This is not that. This is like actually what happens when those characters don't keep their shit together, and it goes and it just comes out. And that's basically what all of these characters are doing. There's no brakes on this train. Like, they are fucking saying everything they are thinking. Their internal dialogue is external dialogue. They are fucking just saying the most heinous things out loud because they exist in an environment where it's not only okay to say those things, it is expected you think those things. And so Network is such an antithetical movie to what Sidney Lumet does. I can imagine this might have been quite a big stretch for him, but in retrospect, unquestionably the right man for the job. I mean, like it's sad actually, because we've done the compare and contrast to All the President's Men. This movie, it made money, but All the President's Men was a box office smash. I mean, it made like 70-80 million in 76. This only made like 23. And
it did only cost $3 million though.
Sure,
so.
But All the President's Men was hardly a fucking, big affair. I mean, it's just two dudes talking into telephones for most of the film, So it's kind of sad that that this movie wasn't received as well at the time by its contemporaries. But there's no question about which movie has gone on to be more influential, more prescient, and this one constantly, Network constantly gets revisited and held up. It's like this is considered. The American Film Institute put it in the top 100 films of all time.
You know what? Since again, sadly, the arcs for all the fans span like Monty, and we might be talking about a film we reviewed last week that they don't see ages. So to me, this is fresh in my mind. You know what I was even thinking when I was like revisiting this film and thinking about the script writing, how crazy the premise is, bro. This feels like a 70s fucking Charlie Kaufman-esque film. Like,
it does.
Think about how it blurs the edges and things that should almost be fantastical actually are like realistic and incitement. It's of a different sentiment, certainly, and sort of tone, but it has that vibe almost, mate. Like if you were to make something in the modern day, it'd have to be almost more Kaufman-esque.
Yeah, I would be surprised if Kaufman didn't love this movie.
Yeah.
I'd be very.
Well,
surprised.
I mean, everyone's even because we've been laughing a bit at Aaron Sorkin. He said, I've got the quote here. There is no predictor of the future, not even Orwell, has ever been as right as Chayefsky was when he wrote Network. He considers it, and he said that 15 years ago. So it's awesome.
And he's only gotten more right, because here's the thing, like I hadn't seen this movie in probably 15 years, so it's really different because I'm coming to it with so much more knowledge of the direction of media and the direction of basically the mediums in which media take place. So the advent of streaming and everything like that. Like I haven't seen this film since all of that happened, and it seems even more prescient somehow now.
I couldn't find anything about this, but there was a news reader did kill themselves on air in 74. Her name was Christine Chubbuck, and what she did was she rewrote the segment. So it was like, we're about to present exclusive coverage of an attempted suicide, and she put it into the thing, the script for the show, and then she shot herself on air. And that was, like I say, that was 74, and she'd suffered all her life with depression. She was only 29, and she blew her fucking head off, and everybody saw it. And then they've like got rid of the footage. Apparently it's like incredibly. I'm supposed to believe this didn't influence Chayefsky's script in any way, because apparently it's an urban myth that these two events are in any way related. I couldn't find Chayefsky any reference to it when I was researching this. I couldn't find like anybody that had anything to do with Network referencing this real life event. But that's what I mean about this movie. It's like, it really is like so on the line of it could all be real. And obviously, like, you would do it, right? Like, I mean, if you ever just hit rock bottom and you were a news anchor, it probably crossed everyone's mind, hasn't it? Like, it's just fucking mental. So I just couldn't believe it when I was like researching this, because I was like, it has to be inspired by something, right? Where would you get that idea from? And then I stumbled across that. But apparently not linked at all. You're just meant to believe that 2 years prior to this film being made, newsreader did exactly what Peter Finch's character says he's going to do, and it's not linked at all. It was just that Chayefsky was just imbued with this fucking insane, level of prescient, just crazy stuff. But I mean, yeah, it's like I was genuinely surprised at how well this movie held up. I remembered some of it being a little bit silly, like Faye Dunaway in the Communist Revolution and the Mousy Tongue Hour stuff. Actually, now that my brain's just been bombarded with fucking political grifters for fucking 10 years, it's perfect. It really is. I mean, this is like...
So that part is legitimately funny, too.
Yeah.
That part, it just works as like, you can just laugh out loud at some of the stuff they're saying.
Yeah, of course.
Like I say, even the fact that, like, one thing they didn't even attempt to do in this film is they make the, like, communist chick the one who's got a bit of nous about her. The actual leader of that, like, revolutionary army is just a fucking dickhead. He's just a fucking idiot, isn't he? Like the Ahmed Khan guy. He's just the one-note joke.
Yeah, exactly.
Even that's funny as fuck, though, like I say, when they present him, you're like, holy shit.
Well, yeah, because he's, like, he's presented as, like, some sort of insane, like, guru and thought leader and a brilliant revolutionary, and then you just meet him and he's just like, what? What's going on, man?
You ain't gonna believe this. But I'm gonna make a TV star out of you. Just like Archie Bunker. You're gonna be a household word.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, it's just great. That's what I mean. It eviscerates any place you could put your faith. It eviscerates it. And the movie is in itself, funnily enough, it is also profane on a very, Christian faith iconography kind of way. You touched upon it when you were talking about the stained glass window, but the whole thing of him coming out and spreading his arms and all of that stuff, and all the Christian iconography in the background, the way that that's placed, not just in a really gaudy, over the top network kind of way, but the way that that is placed next to mysticism and other thought systems that are completely not interchangeable with traditional Christianity. But also as well the way that the crowd almost mirrors like an evangelical church, the testify, yeah, and it's really got that vibe to it, that there is this like beatific experience like happening collectively, but it's happening through television. I also thought the speech he gives where he says as well there are a whole which funnily enough is then later mirrored by Matt, where he says there are now whole generations of people that only know what comes out of the tube. And then you think about there are whole generations of people that can't remember the before the internet times. And now there's whole generations of people that can't remember a time before social media. And think about how they constructed their reality and their narrative compared to someone that can remember all of these things. Like all the Gen Xers that had to constantly like upgrade new systems and be exposed to new technology. It's like there's a breadth of understanding there that maybe other generations aren't going to feel the benefit of. Because I do think the internet, while it's a fantastic invention, I think it's been one of the most destructive forces on like just human decency, if you want to call it that. So I mean, like everything about this is just like so tonally perfect. This is the movie for 2025. Funnily enough. It actually holds up as a satire of now.
On the poster, Richard Lewis, this is the movie for
2020. Yeah, for real. Like, because it holds up as a critique of now, even though it's a critique of presumably 1976. And it's like only the best types of satire do that. Only the best types of satire, like like to say, I've referenced Dr. Strange.
Well, it's also just fun because we're nearly at perfectly 50 years since it was released too.
I bet they're gonna do a fucking mega Blu-ray release for it, which will have loads of cool fucking extras in it. I mean, I've watched a documentary about the making of this in a long time. Can't remember what the fuck it was called. But I mean, look, I just feel like, like this is we've done a lot of like flawed gems on this podcast. But this for me is like, again, this is like a 10. This is like a
sleeper classic, if anything. Like, it actually isn't spoken about enough, especially because, like I say, people only ever reference the really iconic speech, which really, even though that lays the groundwork for the film isn't really like his story and the fact that he speaks out. Like, it's not like he's, like we say, he's not the protagonist. He's not even, by the way, that likable a character after the first early scenes. But that essentially is just like the beginning part of like what this movie's about. It's about like we say, like the bigger ideas about what TV was about, even how like fucking the truth isn't anymore a consideration, what people do for views, aspects about like even Americana and what American culture's become. Oh, it's so deep, this film.
And look, obviously as well, thinking about coming up in the 70s, it's like you remember that whole thing, the revolution will not be televised. You remember all that shit? obviously the people were starting to find out by 76, like, it's over. Like, corporate America triumphed, all the fucking hippy dippy flower power bullshit is long gone. Good didn't prevail, and people are waking up to that. And I think there's actually like a lot of 70s media that has this like really, it really like sad, like mourning for a different timeline as we like jackknife into the 80s. And it's kind of like super interesting, and probably like this is like exhibit A in that media. It's so fucking scathing that it's like it really is hard to come away from this movie like not feeling something. But fortunately, it's also hilarious. It's also a really funny fucking film, and not necessarily laugh out loud funny, like haha belly laugh funny, like the
I don't know.
I'm sure. I mean, I'm saying maybe not. It all can't be as good as that Ghostbusters remake, but it's just so on point. Like I say, I mean, I don't think we've done many 10s. I think I said adaptation was a 10. It's probably a 9.
Yeah, I agree.
But this is
what was a 9? Sorry, I didn't.
No, I'm saying maybe adaptation is a 9 rather than a 10. I said it was a 10.
I think it's a 10 personally.
Listen, it's close.
We called it a 10 in the adaptation.
Yeah, that's what I'm
episode,
saying. So I might want to recant that because I want to establish Network now as the new canonical 10 for our show. I think Network's just a fucking it's a must.
I think they can both be 10s, Richard.
Where that should obviously be an arc. Perfect 10. And then we each pick a film that's a perfect 10.
That's a tough one. But I mean, look,
besides, we also have done movies like The Godfather, which are clearly
like Heat or something like that. That's another one. Yeah.
I mean, but that's what I mean. It's like we don't always do the 10s. I wasn't expecting this to be a 10 when I sat down to watch it. I don't know if I'm turbocharging it up to a 10.
I thought this was going to be a flawed gem, like you said. I thought this was going to be more like, some elements would be too ambitious and weird, but that was way better than I thought.
Yeah, and obviously, as I said, this is the perfect antidote to the almost saccharine nonsense of All the President's Men. That it's like say we were presented in the journalism arc with two versions of the future as written in the year 1976, and we know which one won out. And it turns out that by extension, Network is the one that has the more profound thing to say because it was accurate. It was accurate about everything the whole time. Even things it couldn't have possibly known, it knew somehow. It's just an incredibly powerful film, brilliantly acted, brilliantly scripted. Memorable dialogue in almost every scene, cast that absolutely swings for the fences and chews the fucking scenery, loving every second of it. Sidney Lumet, got to give him credit. He could have easily lost the plot a bit with this. Could have like direct, but very subdued. A deft touch as a director. It really is hard to find anything to critique. As I said, I'm splitting hairs with the voiceover and the ending. I mean, these are very minor quibbles in a just excellent film. So hopefully everyone enjoyed this one. I definitely think if you've not seen Network, seeing it for the first time, I remember the first time I watched this movie and obviously I'm blown away by it. And as I've got older and more jaded, it only resonates more.
Well, there you go. The black pill for the media of our times. We will jump forward into the Russell Crowe-led The Insider, another journalism
I need
classic.
this one to hold up, guys, because I remember this being a fucking banger.
I saw it recently.
I watched this a couple of years ago.
I need this to hold up.
It's really good. I saw it like 3 months ago. It's good.
And the difference is this one, we didn't do it much with All President's Men because it was just more about like what that plot was about. But this movie, actually, The Insider, is also going to be really excellent. I can tell you, Richard, for like when I first saw it, it was probably in like the early 2000s, around the time the film came out. At the time, I hadn't done much journalism myself, but actually, I think it also does an excellent job. Even though All the President's Men is more the boring parts of journalism, I think this movie does an excellent job of showing how like you protect sources, how difficult that is, how people behind the scenes. But so that part I think is held up excellently. I think there's a lot we can sort of riff on in that.
No, nice.
And also the risks that your sources take, and sometimes how you can't fully protect them. It's a very good.
I remember at the time the way that it was being discussed as well. It was like, oh look, Russell Crowe's got a beer gut now, and like so he.
I mean, he also puts in a really
good like he's so he's the next big thing. Him and Pacino. So I remember all of that hype around it, and then I remember watching it and. Like, put it this way, I mean, it's another, like we talked about Sidney Lumet with fucking Network. the fact it's a Michael Mann movie, it doesn't feel like a Michael Mann movie. You know what I mean?
No.
Like when you.
I mean, they're not like having gunfights.
Well, no, but I also mean, like, you know, Michael Mann's movies. He loves to fucking, you know, get the city in there with the lighting and this is actually, as I remember it, and again, I haven't seen it in 20 years or whatever. So, you know, I remember it being quite, you know, dour and drab and, you know, kind of like natural lighting and quiet dialogue and discussions, and Wigand or whatever his name is, the Russell Crowe character is always like mumbling and you know, so I'm hoping it's good. I'm hoping it holds up, because All the President's Men was an atrocity, and the rest have to be palate cleansers.
And I'm not sure if it's still on there, by the way, guys, but the reason why I watched it again recently is the Criterion channel, the Criterion streaming service, had a directed by Michael Mann like special playlist. And so I went back and rewatched a bunch of Michael Mann movies like Manhunter and Thief and The Insider. So I was just like spend a week just like going through them because they were available on the streaming service. So it might still be.
I mean, put it this way: this is the last great Michael Mann movie. I think we can, because Collateral's okay, but we don't talk about Miami Vice.
That was the movie that broke me. I used to say Michael Mann was my favorite director. I went to the cinema to watch it on the first release, and then I remember just exiting and going like, well, I have to rethink my whole fucking thought on film now.
I know. It's how does the guy who made Manhunter make Miami Vice, bro? It's so fucking.
It even made me sort of hate that Jay-Z Linkin Park collaboration that they used in the fucking trailer that looked straight fire at the time. So yeah, I'm a bit.
Yeah, no. But he's one of the.
Never really forgiven him for that.
No, you can't. So this is where Michael Mann died in 1999 in my head canon. He made The Insider and he died. And then there was no more Michael Mann movies. Not even.
It's all right. Don't worry. We'll review Heat 2 when it comes out, because
you're on your own. You're on your own. Never happening. So. But yeah, anyway. So look, Network was great. Looking forward to The Insider. Hope everyone else is too. Sorry for the self-indulgent journalism arc. Sorry for All the President's Men. But hopefully Network has made up for it. We do occasionally give you gold to watch if you watch the movies.
And then sometimes it's night moves.
Whatever.
Anyway, we'll see you next week for The Insider.
They couldn't have made The Insider without night moves.